Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Nikki C., all the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I have an amazing guest with us today. Super excited to have him on here and just share who he is, how we connected, and all that good jazz. Before we do, let's make sure that we announce our sponsors and give them huge love and shout outs. Thank you so much to Carolyn Bob Green with Training You to Succeed for supporting this mission, as well as Julia Noah with Breathe Capital Planning, Top Fox, and Ladies of Leadership. If you have any idea what we're doing, what they do, you definitely want to check out our website at www.buildingaleadershipmindset.com, where you can find other podcast episodes as well as how you can become a guest today. So without further ado, we are going to meet this amazing gentleman that I connected with through the Connected Leaders Academy. And a couple weeks ago, I entered a room and I was able to meet him face to face, and we knew we had to have him on. But after losing a 20-year job and going through a painful divorce, Jon Emery embarked on a journey of self-discovery that led him to deeper authenticity, stronger connections with his children, and a passion for helping others share their stories through his podcast, Life's Checkmark. He creates a space for those feeling lost and alone, while also guiding people who have hesitated to start their own podcast, helping them overcome doubts and bring their voices to the world. That's what I'm talking about. Without further ado, let's get Jon Emery on here. Hello, my friend. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Nikki. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Yeah, so great to have you. So great to see you. I didn't even know I was going to see you at this event. I know we have been chatting for a while, back and forth, and with our busy schedules, we finally had a chance to connect. And I really felt this energy, and I'm glad that you are on here today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to see what this conversation turns out to be.
Yeah, well, let's do it. So tell us a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your backstory, just some of the challenges that you may have had and where you are today.
Yeah, so as you already shared, I went through I lost my job after 20 years around the COVID time, and it wasn't due to COVID. It was just, hey, we're not making any money or whatever. They decided to close. And I had to first look at it as like okay, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've been doing the same thing for 20 years. Where am I going to go with this? First I was like, but I wasn't really too bothered. And then I got to look at it as an opportunity. And so to backtrack just a little bit, they stopped doing production about 8 months before I left. So I was like one of the last 3 people in the whole plant to be walking out the door, because I was in the shipping receiving area, and we had to strip everything out of the building. The machines, I mean, this was a large facility. The racks, all the material had to be gone. Not that we were physically doing it ourselves, but we had to make sure it all disappeared. And so when I was one of the last 3 to walk out, it was really weird to see a fully functioning manufacturing company go to a shell. It was heartbreaking to see people leave in 8 months before that. And then it was like a weird feeling just to walk out and be done. There's nothing left in this building whatsoever. So that was weird to go through that phase. And then I had to open up and discover, where am I going to go from here? So real quick, I jumped into life insurance. I knew a guy that was doing it. He was taking people on, and totally different, commission based, never did commission or anything like that. So I was having fun. I was exploring and learning the ins and outs of it. And for me to share the information, I created YouTube videos and got to speak with several entrepreneurs and stuff on Facebook Lives. And that's how I was starting to build things. I closed on a client. And so I left my job May of 2020. Yeah. And then I And then I closed on my first client in January within that year. Then, I found things were a little shaky at home, wasn't sure what was going on. And, came May within that same year, right? The word divorce came to me. Um, since you have a podcast, I have a podcast. It's funny how the podcast world has worked for me. I was listening to a podcast like 2 to 3 years prior to all this, and losing the job, trying to be a better father. Like I wanted to. I have 2 kids. My son's 15 now, my daughter's 12 now, and this was based on men just become better men in all areas of life. And for whatever reason, this podcast came back up in January within that year, right? Um, and I jumped on, and I'm sharing this because I want to encourage others to listen and take action on things. And it doesn't have to be just about podcasting, but it has worked for me. This podcast, I don't know if it was an episode on marriage or anything, but they did share the commercial, whatever ad that they had, for men to join a group and get to learn and grow, with each other. So I joined. I never jumped on the Zoom calls because I was trying to like be with my kids as much as I could. And because I wasn't sure what was going on. Like I said, this was before the word divorce even came up. And so I got to meet like 4 or 5 men, not personally, but through video. It was, I'm sorry, not in person, but through video, is text or whatever. And it was basically like a lifeline, I would call it, right? So like if something was going on, you couldn't figure it out. Like these guys were there to support you in any way, whether they went through it already or they know other people. It was just them to like listen. And you and I, you might know Jeremy Roadrock. I don't know, but so
Right.
that's how I met him, and and now I see him everywhere I go now. Um, and he had a masculinity course that he was running in May. Me not knowing what was coming, and so I jumped on that. It was a 4 week program. I didn't know what I was getting into, and that I believe, and these men that I was talking to allow me to be prepared for when that word came up. And then he also shared with me that 10 men commit suicide every day from divorce, whether it's that moment or sometime down the road, right? It's something that just carries on. So podcasting for me has like helped me in that way, and it's also allowed me to grow from thereafter, working in all the areas of my life. And so here I am today, as a father of two, supporting as much as I can, and working a full time job, podcasting. I have a podcast community. You and I were talking about video clips, but I do that as well, and then helping people get started on their podcast because for me, I started to learn why other people are going through their experiences of themselves, how they got through it, and hopefully my mission is with the podcast is that it reaches that one person at least, whether it's them listening or their friend is going to send it to them that knows that they're going through something. That's my mission with the podcast. So that's a little, that's where I am kind of today, and we could dive into anything you want to.
Oh my goodness. First of all, when you said that you had heard a podcast and you had a lifeline of, just amazing men that come together and really support each other. And that's just a beautiful community. And I actually had Jeremy Roderick on this podcast. So he is part of the Bomb Global family. When it comes to that, we connected through the Connected Leaders Academy. And I just love his take on that perspective of being a great father, of using your mindset, of really taking ownership of those things when it comes to divorce, when it comes to just family as a whole. He's just such a family guy, and I just love his heart. I'm glad that, the universe put you guys together because, that's just amazing. To know that we're all connected in that way, right? We don't know what a small world this really is and the circles that we share. So as soon as you said a lifeline of men, I was thinking, I wonder if it's Jeremy. And it sure enough it was. So thank you for sharing that. But let's just go back to this 20-year journey, right? You don't have plan B. You're just thinking that this is maybe going to last forever, and you start seeing this company kind of, losing its spunk, or, whatever that is. And what is your mindset going through that time? Were you ready to prepare to build that plan B? How long did it take for you to actually soak in the realization that, now we have to go into something else?
Yeah, so for me, I was skeptical with hearing what everybody else, all the rumors I heard first, right? I was like, no, we're not closing. There's no way. I'm optimistic. I'm like looking, everybody's like, oh, the writing's on the wall. I'm like, okay, and then we had that meeting, and they said something, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I was I was shaky, and they kept extending me, like I shared, so it was kind of weird to keep making income, and there's no production and stuff going on. Um, but yeah, I wasn't really sure what to do. I always wanted out, right? And so I was trying to do some kind of real estate and stuff. I had some investment properties, but I never got a mentor or anything to push me to even pursue that even further. So that was my first way of thinking my out, prior to me even, leaving, before they were thinking about shutting down. It's just I was stuck in that mold, and that's what I share. I was in that mold of like going to work, coming home, taking care of the family, the kids, the house, and then play on the weekends or whatever, and just do it all. It's rinse and repeat, and just keep on doing it. Where now, I do have like a mold in a sense, but I come home and I'm podcasting, and I'm trying to experience and learn from other people. Like if you were coming on as a guest, that's who I'm listening to, and I take in that energy. Um, to go back to preparing myself, it was I was trying to. It's kind of hard to explain. I was trying to take it all in slowly. Like I didn't want to. I didn't want to feel pressured to do something, even though there was some pressure there, from some people. But I didn't want that. And I wanted, and like now, I just want to live. I just want to have a good life and be happy and explore, and be around good people and see great things. So that's kind of like where I'm at now. Uh, it's yeah, it nobody prepares you for something like that, because it's a life-changing event, and then to have the divorce on the back end of it, like that's a life-changing event too. So it's just yeah, if somebody's going to go through losing a job after 20 years or so, I mean, look at it as an opportunity. And it took me a while to realize that things happen for you, not to you. And so it allowed me to open up to me, who I am today. If Nikki, if you would not know me 3, 4 years ago, because I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be talking in front of people. I wouldn't be hosting my own event. I wouldn't be speaking on stages. I would just be the dad. I would be just working hard and come home, and that's it. And just, get a 401k, and just let life be what it is. Where now I'm trying to explore, do new things. I've been to Tennessee. I've been to Florida more times than since then. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
it's life changing. So I would encourage others that if they're going to go through a life changing event, yeah, you're going to go through depression and anxiety and all that stuff that you don't want. But think about where you could go on the other side of it, and think of it as an opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That is definitely a golden nugget to just, keep the hope. I'm just kind of reflecting back on what my life looked like May of 2020. And it was right after COVID. We were smacked with that, right? And my job was starting to do layoffs. And I'm on the other hand, like crossing my fingers that they lay me off, that I don't have to make the decision myself. Because I had that February, I had just started. I actually created Building a Leadership Mindset as just a YouTube channel where I was just going to come on and give inspiration and hope to empower people to build their path, right? To jump in, even though I wasn't jumping in yet, but I knew I was on that journey. And I just left it sitting there with one video for 2 years. It was really a seed that was planted. I talked about fixed and growth mindset. And if it wasn't scripted, it wasn't getting done. If my makeup, or, if I wasn't like presentable, the whatever the world wants to see you as, right? Not authentically me at all. It just wasn't getting done. And it sat there. So I didn't even know I was going to be podcasting and interviewing amazing individuals that have went through kind of the same journey or different journeys, but it's still the end goal of just wanting to put value out to the world, right? Based on our experiences, what we've gone through, how we can help that other soul that's lost and looking for that. So I'm glad that podcasting was your avenue. For me at that time, notary became my avenue, right? I took a week off from my corporate job. I had invested 14 years. And then I said, you know what? With having all the evidence and everything like that, God just told me, if not now, when you've been talking about wanting to do all these amazing things, here's the opportunity. And again, they weren't going to let me go. So you actually had some time to kind of soak it in and have to go to the unknown, right? After that time was up. How far after your departure from that organization was the divorce? And at that time, was there any plan B to start preparing for?
For the divorce, to prepare for that? Yeah, so I left my job in May of 2020, and then the May of next year was divorce, right? So there was a gap in between, where we actually like departed from each other in the same house. So it was like November of that same year that, she went her own way, their mother. And yeah, I had to prepare myself, when that word was mentioned to me, I was like, I'm done. I'm tired of trying to figure things out. And, whereas for me, I was trying to hold on to everything up till that point. And that's why I mentioned the masculinity course, and just talking to these men, kind of, I feel like prepared me for the unknown. And so I had to find myself in an area of working on myself emotionally and mentally first. And that's exactly what I did. Build in a morning routine, listen to positive videos, podcasts, you name it. And then talking to great people eventually down the road was what kind of helped me even more. So I had, and I had to realize that, I was going to be alone for a period of time, right? With not the kids even being here. So at that time, we decided on, I would have the kids for the weekend. It was Saturday to like a Tuesday. So it was all the time I would have them that time up till this year. We decided to do 7 days on and off. Anyways, they trying to find that space, and I'm sure if you talk to a lot of men and fathers, their kids are like a big thing, and for that time to be away from them, it hurts. And I'll still say that because I never would have thought that there would be a time in my life that my kids would be away from me at least half the year, and not to see that. You can talk to them on the phone or video them or whatever, but it's not the same thing. So you can't have that close relationship with them, quality time and stuff as much as you could before. And that hurts. That hurts a lot. So and for whatever reason, Nikki, it seems like a lot of men want to hear what I have to say sometimes because they don't hear it from the men's perspective. I don't know why that is, but it is what it is. But it's true. It hurts. It hurts inside. And I'm trying to focus on other things when they're not here, and also when they are here sometimes, like the podcast and everything else. But you still have that thing back in your mind, like I'll text them, I'll give them a call, and you don't hear from them, right? And yeah, they're busy, they're kids, but you still want to reach out and let them know that you're there. So even if you text them and you don't hear, or you leave a voicemail and you don't hear from them, that day or the day after, at least you're still showing up. And that's what we have to do. Unfortunately, the communication isn't there all the time. But to get that point, you're never going to get to the point where you're like, okay, I can, I'm relaxed, this is comfortable, I can handle it. For me, I'm living in a 3-bedroom house when they're not here. Right. It's so empty than what it was when, even when they're around. So it's just like, and I guess for me, like that's where I find my space with the podcast, right? I'm able to connect with all these people and keep building things, and that's that I allow for myself to find. I have it on my walls. I have a values, mission, and a vision, right? And that's me personally, not my business, but personally, right? This is who I am. And it took me a while to figure that stuff out. Thankfully I hired a leadership coach and, he was able to, hey, like this is not about business. This is about you. And I'm like, wow, I never looked at it at that perspective. And it's so true. So I always look at that too. And that's what allows me to keep showing up for who I am today, for, the guest, the business, myself, the kids, because I don't want to quit, because in a sense sometimes when you show up and you quit, then other people will look at it from a perspective like, okay, he gave up, I can give up too. And just to go back on that just a little bit, you're allowed to pivot, you're allowed to change things up a little bit, but you don't want to quit altogether unless it's absolutely necessary, like you're losing everything. But yeah, I went off on a tangent there, I think, for your question, but I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for that, and especially financially, like, and as a men, like go back to the men's side, right? We build this like empire, and then it collapsed, right? So now, for me, I was just turning 40. I'm 40. I'll be 44 on Monday. And it's just like, to start over, and you're not starting from zero. You're starting from like below zero, so you're not starting as a teenager, keep building up, but you're starting at negative in all areas. So you have to like work on yourself everywhere. So if somebody's listening to this, I would suggest finding one area to work on first, and that's exactly what I did. And I know I mentioned it. For me, it was emotionally, mentally, and then for me, it was physically, spiritually, relationship wise, and now it's business, finance. That's how I structured it for myself.
Wow, what a beautiful answer. No, you said it exactly the way you were supposed to say it, whatever came to your heart. Thank you for being just real and raw and vulnerable, because that's what this call is about. This call is about the hot, I call it the hot call. So it's honest, open, and transparent. Life is not we don't get a playbook for life or for the life transitions that happen, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a loss of a loved one, or a loss of a job. Like, all of it comes with different emotions, different opportunities. And I think that you did a great job with aligning yourself with those that understood you, that became the lifeline, that actually gave you tools to able to support, for you to be able to support your journey and what the next level was going to look like. And you have, my friend, have leveled up, even though it's not the story you wanted right at the end. We never want that story. We always kind of build our lives. And sometimes, again, we do have to pivot. It's never failure. It's never the end. It's just a new beginning. And sometimes those things that we call grief or failures are really gifts. And you have put that into play as a gift. And that's what I see. So I want to thank you for sharing that. We are going to take a quick moment. We're going to check out a clip for our Empower to Inspire tour that we have coming up in Chicago in May. And we're going to come back and we're going to dig a little deeper with Jon Emery and just share some more of his podcasting and his mission. One moment. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Welcome back. That was from our first Bomb Global Business launch and Empower to Inspire back in May. There's something about the month of May that is like it's been my month that I've adopted as my growth journey. It was the first time I entered into the speaking world, networking. A year later, I launched my event. So why not kick off the tour in May where it all started? So we've been talking to Jon. He has been sharing just his journey through a 20-year career, divorce, and now going into the space of podcasting. But before we get into the name of your podcast and what the mission is there, let's just go back a little bit to the fact that you hired a coach, the fact that you seeked out some support, and a lot of people try to do this alone. I was an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, let's say that, for a very long time, since maybe like 2011 or so, going into different industries, network marketing and things like that. And just couldn't find a space or someone to tell me the right ways to do it or guide me, right? So how important is it? How important was it for you to actually hire a coach, and how quicker were you able to navigate through the things that you couldn't yourself? Share about that.
Oh, Nikki, it's great. I mean, it's life changing, and it was definitely a big shift for myself. And not only did I mention the leadership coach, and so let me just go back real quick. So I had Jeremy kind of help me out as in the sense as a coach. I consider him a coach, right? Even if I took that course. But that guy is amazing. He was able to Facebook message me, and he not exactly at the right time every time I asked something, but he did get back to me, right? So he was there on the sideline. After that, I hired a physical trainer, Gordon. I'm sure you're familiar with Gordon Bradecki, and so I've been into that field for about two years now. So that's something I hired him. I hired a business consultant to get my podcasting program launched and up and running. I also hired the leadership coach, like I mentioned before, and that was like an 8-week program to help me with my values, mission, and vision, and even more than that. And I'm trying to think if there's anybody else out there that kind of, yeah, I'm sure there's a few more that I'm not naming, but it's definitely gives you a boost. It helps you to excel even quicker. Somebody that's going to be holding you accountable in those areas for that coach that you or coach, consultant, whatever, to push you forward. Right. So, for example, if I didn't hire Gordon to get me to be more fit, let me go back. Like, I was working out. I have stuff in the basement, and so after the divorce, I was like, okay, I'm going to start getting more fit. Right. It's gotta get this stuff off of my mind. So I started working out. I was doing it like 5 days a week, and I had a book. I was going by the program. I saw results. I didn't see the results that I wanted, and I was exhausted because I was doing it like an hour, hour and a half each night or whatever. I work. I come home and I'm exercising, and so I met Gordon. I hired him. And yeah, after we spoke a little while, and I was just like, let's do it. Man, I tell you, he shredded me down from like 160 to almost like 140, right? I'm like, this is not what I want, but you got to get yourself to a point, and then we become who you want to become, right? And so 2 years into it, I'm on the same routine that we ended with because I enjoy that routine. There's a few exercises I switched up, but it allowed me to start tracking what I was eating. It allowed me to start tracking what I was, what my weight was and everything like that. And we were able to meet once a week to go over everything. Are you doing this right? Are you performing the exercises right? So this was virtual. So it wasn't like I got to see him every day and we do it together. Right. So it got me to the point where I was able to feel good about myself as far as getting the results that I wanted. And I'm using him as an example, but even also as like the business area, somebody's going to say, hey, here's like this package deal for you. I have these guys, this VAs or whatever, to help you create this to get you one step further than you were ever before. And yeah, everybody's going to look at it. There's an expense to everything, right? But there's also an expense if you don't spend the money. You're going to be 5 years behind 5 years from now because you didn't make that expense to hire somebody to help you get 5 years ahead. And, look at that now if I wanted to and go, wow, they spent this money, but I spent that money to get me to where I am today. And it's just going to get me so much further. So there's going to be somebody else that I'll wind up hiring as a coach, trainer for whatever. And they're just going to keep on making me excel. And you can go to listen to these podcasts and stuff like that, and there's a bunch of great people out there, and you'll find that one that you're just going to click, and it's going to come down to people like and trust, and that's the people you want to work with. They're going to keep showing up, and it's the accountability that I really love, and that's the push. So hiring somebody is definitely a game changer, and I would suggest if you've been on the fence hiring someone, just pull the trigger and just do it. That's
That was that was absolutely gold because I would 100,000% have to agree with you on that one. A lot of times we're definitely counting our pennies. We're in survival mode. We're always looking for a way and how we can house this for a rainy day, right? But will the rainy day ever come? Should we? I mean, if we prepare ourselves with the coaching, with those masterminds, with those, whether it's, launching a podcast, investing in someone to help you manage it, however, whatever expense it is, it's going to come 10 times fold later. Because if you truly take, and it's not the expense, because you can make the expenses, and some people pay tens and thousands of dollars, but they do nothing with the information. And it's not the fault of the trainer, the coach, or anyone else. It's the fault of our mindset. So have you personally, I've paid for things that I just didn't complete, whether it's because I didn't have the time or I was just supporting or anything like that. Can you tell me a time that you may have put something, paid for something and really not take action? Or is your mindset, if I'm investing, I'm 100,000% in?
I'm going to say I'm at that point where if I am investing, I'm 100% in. But there's like some things that pop up where it's like, lifetime, access, like hurry up and get it now. Like, so there's points where like, if you're listening to something for so long and you're like, oh, he's got it. He's a great coach. I like what he's saying. Now he's got lifetime access. Well, maybe I'll just sign up to have it lifetime and then I'll go back. And now that, I'm saying this and I'm thinking about it, there is something I subscribed to, like it was a lifetime and it was years ago and it was in the financial field and I touched it probably a month or whatever into it, and that was probably it. Now I could still access that, right? But I didn't hire that person as a coach or a trainer or anything, but it was to actually have access to him sharing the information that he has to offer. And so like that, those are cheap ways to get in and have all that information. On the flip side, you're buying the course, you're not hiring him as a trainer or a coach or anything. So like that's where you have to like put the investment in, and that's where you're going to see your growth. We can go through all these courses and say I can handle this myself, like they're giving me all this great information, but if you don't have that person there behind you to support you and keep guiding you because you paid and you signed up for a reason, then you're going to probably slack off and you get, it's just like going to a networking event or these live events where you're going to learn all this information. You're so excited after 2-3 days, you go home and you're like, I can't wait. And then you're back into what you were doing before. Right. It's just, it's like they call it shelf help, right? You buy a book and all this course and it just goes on the shelf and it ain't helping nothing sitting on the shelf. So if you can hire these people that you're working with and there's a reason like you're connecting with them. So just hire them. Right. And yes, we can look at the money as a, I don't have it or, I don't know if I'll be able to pay for it. You'll find a way and you'll probably make money 10 times fold after you get that support with them. Or, it might help you, for example, you come out of a, abusive relationship or something like that. Like you have to work yourself up to become better. So hiring that person, that coach or whatever, somebody that's probably already been through it. They're the ones creating this stuff and they want to see you get better. So like that's the quick way out. You probably spend 3 months with them and you'd be in a whole different ball game, a whole different world, ready to rock and roll before, you're working on yourself for 5 years to become better. You might never become better. I don't know.
Yeah. And the reason why I ask is it really goes back to discipline, right? It really goes back to building that mindset of believing that you can do it, not just desiring it, but actually taking action to do it. We had an event this morning, and that was like the biggest takeaway is we can go to all of these, masterminds, events, community meetings, whatever they are. If we're not putting a play or pressing play on any, even if you take one thing away out of the six, we had six speakers, right? Even if you take one of their task away and you put it into action, you are more likely to continue that discipline of your purpose, of finding your purpose, of working in your purpose, of serving in your purpose. And that's really what this is all about, especially for podcasters. So let's forward into that. Tell us the name of your podcast and how, like, at one moment did that come into play and you're like, oh my God, this is it. I need to continue to stay doing this.
Yeah, sure. So my podcast is called Life's Checkmark, and I name it that because you don't have to be doing what everybody else is telling you in your life. For example, it was like going to school, get a career, go to college, get a career, house, 401k, all that good stuff, right? And you can look at your check mark any way you want. It could be finance, it could be relationship, whatever. And so that's why I created a name for what it is, because you can create your own life's check mark. Um, and so for me, for my podcast journey, for how it started, it did not exactly start right after the divorce or anything. So I've been podcasting right now for 2 years and about 6 months. And I wound up going to an event that I would have never went to before if I was still married, and so I went by myself. I'd never been by myself on any event, sleeping somewhere. It was different. Um, but another podcaster was holding it, and it wasn't about podcasting. It was just like something where entrepreneurs are coming on and they're supporting you, helping you in other areas. So for me, I sat down at the breakfast table. I just went downstairs to go eat breakfast at the hotel, and the host was there, and he's like, "Oh, come sit down with us." So I sat down with him and like 7 other guys. I had some great discussions with these men, and they all got up and left except for this one, and I cannot remember his name. I know he lives around me, but I don't remember his name. Anyways, he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Start a podcast." Right? I was just like, "What? Whatever." And I said, I don't have anything, I don't have any episodes or anything like that. I said I did these 10 Facebook Lives when I was doing the life insurance with entrepreneurs. And he's like, "Oh, just take the audio, strip that, and start your podcast." I said, "Well, it has nothing to do with what I want my podcast to be." And, I held on to that. Like, I was in fear. I was blocking myself from even doing anything. And 6 months later, I found a really easy way to strip the audio and start a podcast. So that's what I did. I stripped the audio from those 10 episodes. I started in November of about 2 years ago, and I launched 3, and then I launched 1 each week thereafter. So that got me going. And then episode 0 states, "Hey, these first 10 are when I was doing X, and then thereafter, this is what my podcast is about." And so that allowed me to start the podcast. It allowed me to find confidence in myself. It allowed me to reach out to some of the men, like I had Jeremy on as well, reach out to the people I knew along my journey to become guests and start sharing their journey. And that's how Life's Checkmark was created, where people are now just sharing their journey in life, and we're having a good time, great conversations like this.
Oh my goodness. That's taking action. That's taking action. That's taking a thought that someone planted in your head that you didn't initially act on, but it stood there and it stood there for a reason. And then, of course, you run into the way on how to make that happen. And then you're like, oh my goodness, this is what he was telling me. Now I can go and put it into action. And you did. And this is what I want our audience to really understand is sometimes things tug at your heart, your mind, and sometimes we don't know how to do it or what to do with it. And it's just really like staying in that moment. Don't forget about it. Don't put it in the parking lot. Figure it out. And can you tell our audience what are some ways that they can really take action when those things start to happen?
When somebody tells you something and you just like, that,
Yeah.
yeah. the best way I've learned is, and you kind of said, share this a little bit already, is doing the 1%, you know, better every day. And so like, I don't know what made me remember that, and 6 months later, I decided to do it, but there was that thought in my head. So maybe you just write it down and you look at what you wanna do the next day, and it might be that same thing that just keeps repeating on your list, and you just never touch it, and then you finally go, "Okay, I'm gonna make this and and make it happen," whatever that is, and see what happens. And that's how we learn, the results, right? We have to start something to get results from it to see if it's something we want to do. And then, yeah, you can pivot, you can shift. Somebody suggested to me, like, go on a 2 week sprint, right? If you come up with this great idea, push it out for 2 weeks, see what kind of results you get back from it. If it doesn't stick, then back off on it a little bit and maybe let it just sit out there and you come back to it sometime later. But yeah, it's keeping that, I don't know, somehow keeping that thought in your head.
Mhm.
There was something there that I wanted to make it happen. It just wasn't that time, right?
Yeah.
And I can't say what really sparked me 6 months later, but it was the right time. It was, you
No.
know, um, I can't remember the exact date it started. It was sometime in November, but I know November, my dad's birthday's in there, so, like, that's I don't know if that's something that sparked me or whatever, but maybe I just got tired. I was just tired of sitting on the fence and tired of trying to figure out how I'm getting through my journey, and I just had to start talking to more people and see how they get through it. And I shared that earlier, like I get, I'll have you on eventually, Nikki, and I'll be able to hear everything about you, and I'll be able to absorb whatever you throw at me if I want to or not, and start using that in my life or utilize it and share it with others. And that's what I love the most. I want to just share one quick thing here. I had a guest. She's been on my podcast twice, like back to back. It was, I think, a year ago in December, and she's in the paranormal activity, and it's nothing like go hunting for ghosts or anything like that. But she's all about getting rid of the bad energy in your house. And so she's in Tasmania. I'm in Pennsylvania, so she's all the way around the world. And she goes, I can do this through Zoom and all that stuff. And I'm like, thinking in my head, I'm like, I don't know how, but okay. And so what she does, she dissects the house in a sense, like, checks the land, all the maps and all that stuff going online and everything. And she shares how you can feel the energy through Zoom, something like that. And if it wasn't for that moment, that I wouldn't be able to share this with you now and know that I can pick up on what your expressions, your thoughts, your feelings, and everything just through a video, just through this. And that's how, like, my relationships have been forming a lot. So I'll do a 20-minute like intro, like, hey, let's get to know each other a little bit before we go ahead and start a podcast episode to make sure we're a fit. And that's how it works for me. That's how I build that relationship and just know a little bit about them. They can know a little bit about me, and that carries on. That's just weight. That's gold right there. Because uh, in the podcast world, if you want, fill out a form and see what happens. And I don't hear back from any of them, so I kind of like just stop. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That's so good. That's so good that you said that because I too started this. I started audio. So I was like on Anchor when Spotify was Anchor. Now they merged to Spotify. And I just wanted to, again, just pour out whatever was on my heart, whatever was on my mind. Sometimes you can even hear me panting because I would like pace back and forth in my office with so much passion that you could actually hear it. And I don't edit any of my videos or anything like that. I don't look for perfectionism. At this point, I had already had the channel sitting for 2 years, so I'm not going to do that again, right? Then I decided in like September, October to start interviewing. You're actually about to be in our next 50 guest celebration because we're about to hit 200 episodes. Because again, and I use it very intentionally. Not only one, do I get to meet amazing people, I get to share their stories to the world, But three, it also is a learning lesson for me. I'm going to absorb and take away. And sometimes I'll go back and rewatch the episodes and write down the golden nuggets that were dropped and how do I splash Nikki on that or what I'm doing or my mission. So podcasting is just um, not to be entertaining or educational, but it's for everyone, right? It's for the host, it's for the guest, and it's for the audience. So I love that you bring that point up, because I think I've said it in the past as well. So tell us how can, and as a matter of fact, let me put up your YouTube link. So you want to check it out at Life Checkmark on YouTube. Check out the episodes. And how can they get a hold of you? Like, what's the best way they can connect with you?
Yeah, the best ways, you can find me on Facebook. That's my social playground, as I mentioned earlier to this. But yeah, that's the best way. If thereafter we can email or whatever. And my Facebook, not my Facebook, my podcast is on YouTube, but it's also Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff as well. So like if you went to YouTube, you can just find all the links too in the descriptions on the shows as well. But yeah, check them out. If somebody's here listening or watching and they think they'll be a great guest to share their journey because they went through something, I'd be more than open to sitting down, even though my guest list is very long. But I'm always open to even just having the discussion, the 20-minute conversation, just to open the book to get to know each other and see how I can support that person.
Absolutely. And we have his website as well, lifescheckmarks.com. Definitely check him out. Everything he has going on, Jon, it has been absolutely phenomenal having you on. The nuggets that you've shared, the honesty, the authenticity of your journey is going to definitely touch at least one person, right? Because that's all we look for. If we can change one person's life a day, we have done our job. Our job is not to hold anything back from our experiences, from what we've been taught, from what we've learned. It's really to give it back to the world so that they can also take action. So I'm going to leave you just kind of share for the next 2 minutes, just anything that you want to leave our audience with, whether it's motivating them, what you're working on, what you have to offer. The floor is yours, my friend.
Sure. So I'll start off with I do have lifescheckmark.com/free resource, and that shares my first module for getting ready for podcasting. And I share that with you now because you get to know your why. That's what's really important. If I didn't sit down and go, I want to have a podcast to listen to other people's journeys to help the other person on the other side, I don't know if I would keep going, right? Because we might, and this isn't just for podcasting. This is everything. I just shared the values, mission, and vision that I have for myself. And if I don't look at that, when it comes to those points in my life where I want to give up, then I probably would give up because I didn't have it written down. And to have that in front of you to keep pushing you to move forward is a great thing. Now you're almost reaching 200. Excuse me. I'm at 135, so you're ahead of me, but I'll catch up somehow. I'll do extra episodes or something. So just watch out. But you know what I mean? Like that allows you to just keep moving forward. And you might not get those comments. You might not get those likes and stuff of other people. I get a few every once in a while, and that's great. Because other people that are watching and listening, but they're already there doing it. They're just not reaching back out to you. So there are the moments where it's like, oh, this has been a great episode. This has been life-changing. The one person I'll share with you, and then I'll be done, is the one that was holding that event that I went to. He's been doing it for 8 years now, I think. And he was going to stop a long time ago. And he said, I got a comment from somebody in Japan that says, I was going to take my life today until I listened to your episode. Whatever it was about, I don't know. But that's what allowed him to keep going. And now, I don't know if he pivoted a little bit on his podcast since then, but he's still doing it. Right. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's worth, and if changing his life, changing somebody else's life that on the other side of the world is amazing, especially in another country. Like, I don't know what they speak there. And, I know they speak Japanese, but, I'm not sure if they, if English is one of the dominant languages or not there as well. But it's a game changer. It's huge, and who knows who's just going to go, hey, let me listen to this episode. You
Oh my goodness.
change anything. Yeah.
That just gave me chills because when I started my community in November, I had announced it in October, actually at Flashpoint, where Austin, Flashpoint was hosted by Austin Haynes, and we actually met at his event. So that was in 2022. I launched it in November, and I swore I would have 100 women lock in as members by the end of December. Like I had a really big goal, right? But God had to sit me down because He doesn't prepare you for anything that you can't handle, right? So, so I was questioning. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I think that what we're doing is amazing. You know, when we were getting on calls every week, you know, we were sharing what was happening, and some people are just not ready. And that's not our job. Our job is just to keep showing up, sharing the message, sharing the value. And even in that mindset, I kept going. However, people are watching us in silence. We are making impacts, whether you believe it or not, whether you know it or not. And again, it's not for us to know. It's for us to just keep showing up. And in January, I hosted another event that actually, when I launched the first book, Building a Leadership Mindset, I actually was reconnected with a high school friend who had been watching me the whole year prior through a loss. She lost her dad during that time, during COVID. But because I was posting every single day, not knowing who it was going to reach, I just knew the message came to my heart and I put it out there, that she actually reached out. And today she's a first-time author. She is a speaker. She's a poet. She's doing amazing things. But that would have never happened if I gave up, if I just stopped. It's like right when you're turning the corner, you give up, and that's where everything just comes into play. And you're like, you either missed it or you kept going with it, and you're blessing others, right? So thank you for bringing that point up, that you are moving mountains across the country. You don't even know it, but it's happening. I'm sure it's happening. You just have to also follow up. Check it out. And I love that I have to pivot back because this was something really, really huge that you said about, oh my goodness, what was it? To collect data, right? Sometimes we put things out there, we don't get the results we're looking for, and then we kind of turn into something else. Okay, they're not going to like this. Let me try to put this out there. And now we're confusing our audience of what is it that we do and how we serve. But we haven't gotten enough data to even know if it works. And we're not in front of people as often as we should be to tell them. Sometimes we're even scared to share who we are and what we do. Thank you for creating and bringing life checkmarks to life, and making it a tool that people can go to and really have something they can look at every single day. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you're welcome. And you and whoever's watching and listening and everything, you know, that's what it's all about. And it's also, you know, hopefully one day my kids go ahead and look at it too and say, hey, this is what he learned from this person. I can apply this, et cetera. You know, who knows? I don't know, but it's out there.
It's out there for you all to see. Check out Jon Emery. Connect with him today on Facebook. I'm going to have it scroll. I can't drop it. I'll have it scroll right across the screen. Friend him, get to know him, have your 20 minutes. And trust me, I'm pretty sure that will lead to many more 20-minute, 30 minutes, even in-person events, because that's what the universe brings to us when we take action and we show up. So thank you all for listening to another episode of Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. As I always say, have a great day and make it count. Bye, everyone.